Yeah, what up, y'all? It's your boy Flame, aka St. Lou. And remember, God does not need our good works, but our neighbor does. You feel? Before you go, that extra note. Welcome back to Extra Notes Academy. This response video right here is at a homie, one of the most prolific, influential poets, thinkers, writers in hip hop culture. None other than Tupac Shakur. Man, come on. Hey, but seriously, like I grew up just heavily influenced by Tupac, and I was always intrigued by his burden, really, to talk about God and the Bible and heaven, you know. And as a Christian coming up in the hood, that was always important to me, and I connected with him for that reason. And so I thought it was only right that as I'm doing these response videos to rappers and religion, I said, man, let me revisit the homie and just kind of think through respectfully some of the ideas that he put forth. So yeah, so we're gonna talk about that, and yeah, we're gonna have some fun. So let's get into it.
What religion are you?
I'm the religion that, to me, is the realest religion there is. I believe in God. I try to pray to God every night as I pass out.
Right.
And I think that's, and to me, religion, my idea of religion is this. I think that if you, I learned this in jail, because I talked to every God there was in jail. I think that if you take one of the O's out of good, it's God. If you add a D to evil, it's the devil. I think some cool motherfuckers sat down a long time ago and said, let's figure out a way that we can control motherfuckers. And that's what they came up with, is the Bible. Because if the guy wrote the Bible, I'm sure it would have been a revised copy by now. You know what I mean? Because a lot of shit has changed. And I've been looking for this revised copy, and I don't see it. I still see that same old copy that they had from then. And I'm not disrespecting anybody's religion. Please forgive me if it comes off like that. I'm just stating my opinion. I feel like we get crucified. I mean, the Bible was telling us all these people did this because they suffered.
Man, it's so interesting. There's this common theme I'm noticing in each response video from the rappers, is that like there's just this one author to the Bible. And I think that's, I don't know where that's coming from. I know in Islam there's one author to the Quran. I know that in the sect called Mormonism, there's one author, Joseph Smith. But then they have a couple other books too. But as it relates to Christianity proper, Orthodox Christianity, we've never claimed to have one author. So I feel like, unfortunately, the lines get blurred, and then people discredit the Christian Bible, but with the wrong definition of our Bible and its origin. So we have 66 books. We have Old Covenant books, New Covenant books, all these different authors that have written and contributed under the leadership of the Holy Spirit, hundreds and hundreds of years removed from one another oftentimes. So we don't have this one book that's been controlled by one author, or we don't have this one book that doesn't check well with other aspects of the book. It's like, nah, we don't have any contradictions. We have multiple authors writing in different time periods, different contexts, all saying the same thing, all pointing towards Jesus. So just this notion that, there's this one author to the Bible, and it's not the Christian claim. You know what I mean?
This much. That's what makes them special people.
Right.
I got shot 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know what I mean? And I got crucified to the media. You know what I mean? And I walked through with the thorns on, and I had shit thrown on me, and I had the thief at the top. I told that nigga I'll be back for you. You know what I mean? Trust me, this not supposed to be going down. I'll be back. So I'm not saying I'm Jesus, but I'm saying that we go through that type of thing every day. We don't part the Red Sea, but we walk through the hood without getting shot. You know what I mean? We don't turn water to wine, but we turn motherfucking dope fiends and dope heads into productive citizens into society. You know what I mean? We turn money. We turn words into money. You know what I mean? What greater gift can there be? So I believe God blesses us. I believe God blesses those that hustle, those that use their mind, and those that overall are righteous. I believe that your karma, everything that you do bad comes back to you. So anything that I'm doing that's bad, I'm going to have to suffer for. But in my heart, I think what I'm doing is right. You know what I mean?
That's another thing that's interesting is, I mean, dude was a poet, man. I mean, just the way he poetically made parallels between real events in the Bible and his personal experience. That's very poetic. He certainly was a trained thinker and writer, and that's why we loved him. That's why his music was so impactful, because he just had a way of connecting dots and painting pictures and using his voice and his articulation in such a captivating way. And, and that's why he's forever cherished. However, I will say, though, that the point of those events in the Bible was to highlight God's rescue mission. So you see, Jesus's crucifixion isn't just a moral lesson that says, the way I suffered and overcame, you too can overcome your sufferings. The way Jesus told the thief on the cross that this day you will be with me in paradise, that's not just a metaphor to say, make sure you look out for your homies, or make sure you go back to the hood you came from and hook up the other thieves, the other goons, the other sliders and the steppers. Like, that's not the point. So oftentimes we look at the Bible as just a collection of punchlines or metaphors or witty statements or just little proverbs of pithy truths. Like, that's not the point of the Bible. The Bible is telling a story of God's rescue mission to save sinners through his son, Jesus Christ. So the details and the varying narratives and stories in the Bible aren't just these isolated lessons. There's this meta narrative, this big idea that's being told, this overarching theme that is Jesus himself and his salvation that he's bringing, that he's gifting sinners with as they trust in him by faith. So, I think that's interesting how he sort of made it a metaphor, these different events in the Bible, and how he drew from those principles to apply as he's doing life. And now he's about to get into karma and things of that nature.
I feel like I'm going to heaven. You know what I mean? And I think heaven is just when you sleep with a good conscience. You don't have nightmares. And hell is when you sleep, the last thing you see is all the fucked up things you did in your life. And you just see it over and over again. Because you don't burn. Because if that's the case, it's hell on earth. Because bullets burn. You know what I mean? It's people that got burnt in fires. That means they went to hell already. You know what I mean? All that is here. So what else? What do you got there that we ain't seen here? What, you gonna walk around aimlessly, the zombie? Nigga, that's here. You ain't been on the streets lately? You know what I mean? What heaven is now. Look, we sitting up here to live big screen. It's heaven for the moment. You know what I mean? Hell is jail. I seen that one. Trust me, this is what's real. And all that other shit is to control you. If the churches took half the money that they was making and gave it back to the community, we'd be all right. If they take half.
Man, a lot of it is hard to hear, as a Christian, because, obviously I cherish these realities and I don't see them as metaphors. So as he's describing this world as being the end all, like the natural materialistic world, like he's saying that this is it. There isn't this other side, either judgment or heaven. Those are pictures of your state of living. So you can have a hellish experience or you can have a heavenly experience, because this is it, and I certainly understand that with our physical eyes, all we see is what's around us. But I think even a child expresses what's most natural for us, which is what else is out there? How did we get here? A child looks up at the stars and the sun and the moon and says, how is that just hanging there? And though there may be physical explanations to the stuff that's used to make it work, the child still perceives something else. But how did it get there? But who made that? I think that's the most innocent inquiry of our hearts. And I think age sort of burns that out of you as you are disillusioned and with the bad in the world and the evil in the world, and you get the feeling the angst and the brokenness in the world, and it removes that childlike inquiry, and then you just become sort of hardened. The older you get, the more you experience life and disappointment. It really sort of hardens you. You know what I mean? And that's what I think I'm hearing from the bro. And Yeah, so definitely hard to hear, you know what I'm saying?
The buildings that they use to praise God and gave it to motherfuckers who need God, we be alright. We be alright. Have you seen some of these goddamn churches lately? It's ones that take up the whole block in New York. It's homeless people out here. Why ain't God letting them stay there? Why these niggas got gold ceilings and shit? Why God need gold ceilings to talk to me? Why do God need colored windows to talk to me? Why God can't come where I'm at, where he sent me? If God wanted to talk to me in a pretty spot like that, why the hell he sent me here then? You know what I mean? That make ghetto kids not believe in God. Why? So that's a wrong religion. I believe in God. I believe God put us wherever we want to be at. Then it makes sense that God will put us in the ghetto. That means he wants us to work hard to get up out of here. That means he's testing us even more. That makes sense. It makes sense that if you good in your heart, then you closer to God. But if you evil, then you close to the devil. That makes sense. I see that every day. All that other spooky shit don't make sense. And I don't even believe, I'm not dissing them, but I don't believe in the brothers. I was in jail with them and having conversations. Brothers, I'm God. If you God, open the gate for me. Yeah. You know how far the sun is and how far the moon is? How the hell do I pop this fucking gate and get me free up out of here? Then I'll be a 5% for life. Well, never seen it.
Man, woo. You know, it's so relatable, especially growing up, you know, in the hood and seeing the brokenness and feeling those angsts that Tupac was just known for articulating. You know, there is a deep longing for healing and wholeness, you know what I'm saying? And so it's very difficult, really, for anybody. And the word that's been used is theodicy. Theodicy, it just means the reality of evil in the world. You know what I'm saying? It's the thing that we don't understand, the perplexing reality of evil. Why is evil in the world? Why won't God rid the world of evil? Or where did evil even come from? So that's what theodicy is. And that's what I'm hearing from the lamentation from Tupac in this talk. Is just, he's just reflecting on, like, man, things are bad and hard and difficult. And like you said, it makes kids in the ghetto not believe. But I don't think that's entirely true, though. I would say a lot of people believe because of those things. They feel the angst and the brokenness that he's mentioning. And a lot of people turn to God because of it. And they find rest and peace and hope. And there is this idea that religion is used to control us. Again, it certainly has been that. But it's not that in its origin. James talks about good religion. So when religion is rightly expressed and serving the poor and clothing the naked and visiting those who are imprisoned, that's God's good intention with rallying together people around the best ideas for human flourishing. That's a good thing in the world. And it's all done centered around our Creator who revealed himself through his son, Jesus. That's a good thing in the world. But when it goes wrong, it goes really wrong. So the times that we see how ugly and nasty it can get in terms of things like slavery or maybe some of the abuses in the medieval Roman Catholic Church, you see those things and it makes you want to be done with it all. But after you experience that, because as humans, we go through those angsts, and that's a part of it. So after you go through those angsts, I pray that people can get back to that place where you're ready to reconsider from a more clear-minded space, as opposed to just having that tunnel vision and only seeing the abuse. And it's speaking of abuse, he talked about just churches misusing money or maybe spending money excessively on elaborate facilities and edifices. And in his mind, he's like, man, why don't we take some of that money and do much good in the world? And again, that's another one of those isolated things where sometimes money can be mismanaged and prioritized in a way that may not be the healthiest, right? It could be even in an abusive way. But we shouldn't demonize beautiful things. So if someone makes a beautiful building, that's not inherently evil, because beauty does something to the eyes. It does something to how we process ideas. So if there's a beautiful edifice, a beautiful temple or church, and you walk in that space and the beauty lifts your mind to heavenly realities, and then the message, the sermon is consistent with the beauty that you see, it can do much for your spirituality. Now, again, you don't need that. God doesn't need that. He doesn't command it. But he certainly has beautiful buildings in the Old Covenant. You see beautiful descriptions of the temple of God. So God is into beauty and displaying that beauty. And sometimes that costs a lot of money. So it's not inherently evil. But if you have a lot of money and you can make a beautiful building and you can also do good in the community and serve those around you, that's a double good. So again, I think the takeaway is, instead of just harping on the abuses or having one thing, like it's either beauty or helping people, why not both if you can afford it? Now, if you can't afford it, you can still have a balance. You can still have a nice facility and do good to the people in your community. So it's not always just the extreme thing of one or the other. So anyway, a lot was said, but you know, I certainly can appreciate that one of the things Tupac did was he kept religion and talk about God at the forefront. So at least people were, you know, confronted with the reality of God and had to regularly think about it. And now, you know, that's something that you hope maintains in hip hop culture, is that people would at least be open to the conversation of God, religion, the Bible, so that we can have a space as Christians to move in and discuss. But if everything becomes atheistic, then that presents a different challenge. And we would also be there trying to reintroduce ideas of God's reality, and in particular, the reality that God revealed himself in the person Jesus Christ. So in either space, Christians going to be there loving and nurturing people with biblical conversation. But I like that at least one of Tupac's contributions was helping people always know that there is a God and that we should be talking about it, and we should be talking about heaven. So may that continue to be a topic in hip hop culture, so Christians can be there to give biblical answers. You feel me? So much more could be said. Yeah, I'm gonna keep these going. If there are any other videos that y'all want me to respond to, this is fun. I love it. But let people know, man, that you tapped into Extra Notes Academy. So make sure you like, comment, spread the word. Let them know you a student at Extra Notes Academy. Again, this your boy Flame, aka St. Lou. And remember, God does not need our good works, but our neighbor does. You feel? I say before you go, check that extra note. Bing.